Well, what an incredible hunt that was. And my mom, who had never been there before, came out with a bunch of pieces that were actually as large as this one is. So just incredible. Look at this haul. So this has got to be my best hunt on that stop so far. And we ended up going up and down the entire creek for a good stretch there and jumping from beach to beach. And I'm sorry that I didn't film all of it. It was an impromptu visit, and then we started finding these crazy finds. My mom found one that was like this big, and yeah, just like right after I found these two, started digging these other ones out of banks, finding carnelian nodules, and just having a windfall. We both did. So I apologize for not bringing you in on it, but we went crazy. We ended up tying shirts and sweaters in the satchels, and that's all that we had with us, and it was a really, really good time. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at these in detail. I want to show you. You can just see the variety of colors and blacks and swirls and barks and different types of trees that there were. An entire forest buried there. And maybe I can explain to you a little bit about how this particular type of petrified wood was made here in the Napa Valley. This location lies at the top of the San Francisco Bay at the north end of the Napa Valley. The area holds one of the finest examples of pristinely preserved forest. 3.4 million years ago, a huge volcanic explosion covered the entire area in deposits of thick volcanic ash, sometimes hundreds of feet in depth. The same blast knocked down the forest of prehistoric redwood trees, spruce, Douglas fir, rhododendron, California laurel, tan oak, alder, hemlock, and many other variety of trees. There have been many leaf impressions found and needle impressions in the ash layers. The petrified wood here is considered some of the finest in the world as far as detail. The burning hot volcanic ash which buried these trees, which buried the entire forest, the standing trees, the dead trees, all of the litter on the ground, all of the bushes, did so very rapidly, creating what is known as an anaerobic environment. which means oxygen deprived. Because of that, there is very little bacteria or decay. Since not much decomposition occurs in the organic material, it sits unchanged in the passing of time for thousands of years, while mineral-rich water percolated down through the deposits, filling in the very pores of the organic tissues of the trees and plants with silica and other minerals, completely filling in their cellular spaces and then evaporating, leaving minerals behind remaining in the cells and tissues, creating these very complete and recognizable fossils. The process is called permineralization, which is different than the process of replacement, which is why it has preserved all of the intricate details of the wood, its rings, its sap, its grain, sometimes bark, sometimes the inner layers, or some that were forest floor debris and driftwood long ago until that day when silence and heavy darkness lay on them for millennia untold, waiting for us to rediscover them now. There is a park in the same hills that has some very beautifully preserved full logs dug out of the mountainside and interpretive trails along with full gift shops. It is known as the Petrified Forest and is a very long-standing fixture of the north end of the Napa Valley. An entire forest is buried here, along with opal, carnelian, and all the other gems that go along with it. The entire region, all the way out towards the Russian River watershed, bears the same fossilized wood, along with the Napa River and its tributaries, also containing large amounts, where they happen to meander through the bases of the hills on their way out to the main channel. A large piece of this same petrified wood was dedicated to Central Park in New York by Luther Burbank, who was one of the world's most important horticulturalists. A new species of oak was also discovered here, Quercus bacchi. As a point of reference, these trees, these pieces of wood, were buried 3.4 million years ago. That's the same distance back in time as the earliest humanoid bones that we have of Lucy found in Ethiopia in Africa. So quite the haul, quite the haul. Definitely going to have a little shelf in my collection someday. For now, these will be wrapped and stored away, some given as gifts to people who don't have this. This is fun because it's local Napa Valley stuff, and yeah, so anyhow, these are the other rocks that we found. If anybody recognizes what this is, I swear I saw it in a book at some point. It's kind of like a brown jasper-ish type of creature, although it has an outside little crust on it. And I found one piece, and then a quarter mile down I found another piece, and I realized that it was a type of stone, not just one freak. And then my brain kind of said, man, you've seen that in a book. You know, I'm like all of you. I've flipped through 1,000 books and looked at pictures and read all the names, but it's not coming to me at all right now. Is it like a runestone jasper or something? I don't know. But there's that. We got different pieces of beautiful chert. This one had a little bit of, a spectrum running through it, from greens to blues to pinks to, rusty browns. Some really ugly pieces of, I won't call them anything at this point. One piece of white, common opal. Remember that there is an entire forest that was buried there, so some of these pieces could have come out of, sap layers in a tree, and we wouldn't be able to tell now because there was massive trees. This is a crevice agate, most of it including swirls of the chalky host material still, and that's really the only chalcedony that you can see showing in the entire glob, but it was still beautiful. Another little piece of chert. This, did not recognize the material. What is that material? It's kind of ripped apart too. You see the tears and the voids. It's just a bizarre gray chert in a weird pattern. See the outside crust on it, and then look how the whole thing is shaped. It's like, what are you? Are you some sort of grinder? I don't know. Couldn't decide for sure at all that it was any sort of tool or had any human influence. All the shape is strange. So there is that. Other odd assorted stuff. We got different chunks of jasper that will polish up really beautifully if I ever get to that point with it. It's a nice material. And here's another piece that's got more of an agate ness overall to it. Just toss that word in there because there's a little more clarity. Not that there's any lines or anything to it, but I think that we've all seen some agate forms that don't have lines in them at this point, even though that is the technical definition. But it's definitely a very clear kind of bluish gray chalcedony mixed in with that jasper flavor of chalcedony. Now, these three, 4, there's 5 there, Nate. Okay. This is a big boulder of, again, it's not the type of agate that has lines in it, so it's basically a clear gray gob of chalcedony, if you were to go by technical terms, although it's the exact same silicate content as agate, since it's all the same thing. And look at the reds and the oranges in that. That's why I grabbed that piece. It's almost basically turning into what you could define as carnelian there. So a little thin layer on that side. Thought that was beautiful. Here is a bigger piece of what we will call carnelian, because it is a microcrystalline silicate. What's your jigger? You know what I'm talking about. It's orange. It's an orange chalcedony. So you can see even tighter crystal form on that side. That's why it's breaking like that. And its face is there. Am I getting you the close-ups in there? So some goodness there, but that's not at all where the goodness stops. It's a little piece. And then there's a couple actual agates, but this one I saved for last because there's something funny going on with that one. These have a little bit of mineral oil on there. I'll wipe that off for sheen's sake. But look at that. That's an actual full nodular agate. Call it a nodular agate because, well, it's a nodule. And you see that white crust on there? That means we basically got the complete thing. You know, that came out of the host rock and we got the whole thing. And it is just absolutely orange, beautiful all the way through. Well, not all the way through. This white laces through it. And when we cut it, there might be banding, there might not. It might just be what we'll call globular agate piece. Can't tell if there's any lines or if it's a globular nodular. So for now, it's a globular nodular. And you can see the beautiful, look at that. That's just lamplight. It's got a little bit of actual pink to it if you were here in real life too. That flushes the orange out real nice. Not much light can penetrate through there, but there is, I swear I saw tracings of maybe lines going around there. So that's probably the face that I would open up and then bring back into it. That's the opposite side there. So I have a feeling if there's an onion in here, the bands will be running this way. Just a feeling. Got to go with the feeling because once you start cutting, might polish this off first in a tumbler to see how much of that white comes off. Could even do a little bit of chipping with the Dremel. And yeah, then there's this one. Now, grabbed it up out of the creek because it was glowing. It classifies, it's definitely an agate. It's a clear yellow chalcedony family. You see the little microconchoidal fractures all over it that we can call agate dimpling. But there's something about this piece. You see that where it's worn away, they're actually corners. So I kind of want you to picture it before it got tumbled down the river and how sharp that would have been. And then look at the overall of this. Let me get you a couple good angles here. Here's one. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides to that. Now remember, it's been smashed by the river, so it's lost some pieces of itself. But I see multiple sides to every angle of it. I know some of them aren't as perfect, but when I'm taking the time and looking at it, it looks like a little crystal. The whole thing overall looks like a 5-sided, 6-sided crystal. So, could be a very pink, orange piece of feldspar, some huge crystal that fell out of some granitized creature. But the color, you see it there? I mean, it you know, imitates a garnet, like a huge orange garnet or something. And then the color, the light just goes so far into it again. Again, this light is making it very orange. We'll get a flashlight on it. I guess basically when it's backlit, it does brighten up orange. When it's down here, it has some very pink hues to it. It goes from pink into dark orange into yellow. We got some beautiful little pieces of what could be classified overall as carnelian. And huge haul. Couldn't believe it, although there was good indication because the California storms have been so rough and they are tearing everything out. So if you've ever been somewhere and you found little traces of something at the end of the summer season when other people have been there, go back now because the huge specimens will be laying there right on the surface for you. And that is part of the joy in the hunt, is the timing and the location. It's all about vegetation, water levels, exposure, and other people getting there before you. So I worked a good part of that section, but I'm telling you, every hunter has different vision. There's 2 people there on this trip hunting side by side and constantly finding things that the other one had already walked over. So that's just how it goes. So hopefully wherever you are out there, you are having a good day, night, morning, or evening. And I want to thank you for joining me on another Quest for Details. If you're still here at this point in the video, that's incredible. And thank you for appreciating details so much. Until next time, please take care of yourselves. And if you get the chance, take care of somebody else. And I'll see you on the next quest for details.